This is TWiT.
Apple's new privacy features have further rattled the location-based ad market. This is one for the good guys. You know that pop-up you get on iOS 13? You get it on Android now, too, where it says, hey, Google has just, checked your location 4 times in the last 24 hours. You know that pop-up? And it says, do you want to allow that? Or maybe only when the app's open, or maybe not at all? So that's been going on since iOS 13 was released in September. Adtech sources are saying it has been a big hit to the amount of data they can gather. Digiday quotes Benoit Grouchko, who has a great name, by the way. Benoit Grouchko, he runs the Adtech business Timo. They do software for apps to collect that location data. He says 3 years ago, opt-in rates, almost 100%. Almost everybody left location on. Ever since iOS 13, the opt-in rate now is often below 50%. People, when they're given the choice, say, you know what, no. 7 in 10 iOS 13 location signals analyzed by Location Sciences in the 6 weeks after iOS 13 came out, 80% of those users stopped all background tracking across their devices. So if you're in the business of selling based on location, publicity agency Starcom said this impacts the ability to tie users that research online and purchase in store, driving and measure footfall for clients. This is something Google offers, by the way. Google monitors credit card purchases and then says to an advertiser, hey, this guy saw your ad on Tuesday and went to the store and bought your product on Wednesday. Your ad's working. Not as easy. Not as easy. Time to celebrate, Georgia? You're an iPhone user.
I am. I love it. I love it.
And what do you do when you see that pop-up?
I'll always opt out. I'm actually shocked that there's 50% of people that say that they will still allow it. What are you doing? Stop it. It's creepy. Would you want someone walking around tracking you? If you could see them, snooping into your bathroom, looking at what you're doing, what you're surfing around, you'd say stop doing that. You'd close your blinds. There's a few of us maybe that'd be like, yay, into that. Most people would say no. Stop following me around everywhere I go.
Actually, you know what? I'm weird, Georgia.
Are you?
I always say always allow. In fact,
why?
It pisses me off because Apple doesn't usually give always allow as an option. There's really, most of the time, I see 2 options. Allow when app is in use, don't allow. You have to go into the settings to turn on always allow. And I do. Because I want them to know.
What do you want them to know?
Everything.
Everything. I like it.
Patrick knows.
I feel like they care.
Do you think that you get better targeted ads?
Yes.
Why?
What's wrong with that? I think I get better ads. I walk by the Levi's store and it says, hey, here's a coupon. You can go in. My Google Maps, I love that feature where I can look at my timeline and see all the places I've been. Why wouldn't I want that? You think they're following me around? Is it like somebody in
It is like following you around.
No, it's not.
It's
The
best
part of this conversation is like 2 minutes ago, it was like, I don't want law enforcement to be able to track us everywhere.
Right.
And the reality is through third-party marketing tools, if they can identify your phone, which is not that hard to do, the level of mapping and tracking they can do now without using any official tools is kind of terrifying.
So you're saying, I don't worry about Google. You're saying, but you should realize that Google might be giving that information to the cops.
Or it's actually turned out a lot of apps sell the tracking information to third-party services, which are then people can walk up with a credit card number and get information that you would freak out if it was made available directly from Google or from Apple. Or for example, the amount of information the cars track is utterly terrifying at this point. Like. I may never buy a new car again based on the amount of information that's being pulled out of the
Oh, man,
I
drove a Tesla. I would call Tesla and say, in fact, this happened. I had it in forward and your car went backward. And they say, well, no, wait a minute. What time did that happen? Well, this afternoon. And look, no, you were going, you had it in forward. I could see the log.
No, the sensor registered it as forward, not.
That's what I should have said. It's your sensor's fault.
Yeah.
Patrick, would it depend on the amount of torque, though?
Well, if it accidentally goes into reverse and you bump into it, with your, I'm going to pick on Prius because it's here. No, well, actually,
I don't mind if Elon knows, and I don't mind if Google knows. Google's not handing my information over to law enforcement in unprecedented geofence searches.
But it's all those other apps.
They're not what?
I've got Android 10 on my Pixel 3 now. And they added the same thing in there so that now in all the apps you can go in and set your location preferences by app, to always allow when in use or never allow. And I was shocked, after upgrading to 10, some of these apps that were coming up and asking, for location permission that they had, games and stuff that had no business knowing where I was. I don't mind, Google Maps, having my location. I mean, that's why
you have to.
That's
Maps
why I use
won't work.
Things like Lyft or Uber. Clearly, they need to know where I am when I'm using them. But there is no reason for a ride-hailing app to know where I am when I'm not using the app. Anytime that I'm not using the app, it's off. Okay. And I think the only app I have set to always allow is Google Maps because, like you, Leo, I do like the timeline. I find it useful.
Plus, I want to help law enforcement when there's a robbery and they want to know everybody who was in 500 feet of the robbery.
But it's
a gold jacket and a gold hard hat was at this location.
Look at your cameras. You can't miss me.
I think it's about transparency, though. It's that you don't really know what they're going to be doing with it and who they're going to be selling it to and what they're going to be using it for. There are no regulations to make sure that they're really being honest and it's legible. No one reads the privacy. I have every once in a while. It's terrifying. And then I always don't, if I really want the app, I won't read it because then I will say no. But no one reads it. It's illegible. So it's a big problem.
Actually, I'll be honest. I almost always select only when using app because that seems reasonable to me. And if it's an app that shouldn't have location information, if it's Fortnite or something, then I say no.
Remember the flashlight app that some nefarious company bought, and then it went from being like, you can turn on the light for your camera when you're not actually using your camera, and then they did an update and it was looking for information. It was basically accessing all possible information on your phone, your photos, your contact information, everything. It was kind of fascinating to watch because, the millions of downloads for this. This was before they integrated this stuff into the operating system. People kept downloading it, installing it, and presumably saying, okay. That's how badly they wanted a flashlight app. But there's an article the New York Times did back in the middle of December, 12 million phones, one data set, zero privacy, where somebody turned over a data set which was 50 billion pings, quote, 50 billion pings from the phones of more than 12 million Americans as they moved through several major cities, including Washington, New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles.
Wow.
Basically because apps that would track you and then report the information, it also meant that these unregulated, third-party app data collection centers could allow anybody with that information to, track the location of, people who probably shouldn't be tracked or don't want to be tracked. Whether they are celebrities or, exes or, abused. I mean, it's just, it's kind of amazing how much information is out there, and just it's, the William Gibson line. It's my favorite. The street finds its own uses for things. The street's going to find its own use for this information, and it might be creepy as hell.
That's actually a really important point. Is that you can invent a technology and have an idea about how it's going to be used. Law enforcement can have an idea, but with key escrow, we'll only use the ring of power if for good, not evil. But the street finds its own uses is a really good thing to keep in mind. I like that, Patrick. Yeah.
Thank William Gibson.
Yeah. It just that's the nature of technology. It flows like water.